All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get our guest speaker on here. Ladies and gentlemen, hails from Summersville, South Carolina. Him and his lovely wife are regional directors. They already got a regional director, Mr. Larson, in their organization. They got a new IBO out there. I think he's almost qualified. Let's put it this way: they are moving on the charts. And notice the background. He always had his whiteboard with stuff on his for the week. See, that's how you know. He's got his whiteboard always behind him, and he's showing what he's doing for the week. So without further ado, can we give a warm welcome to none other the regional director, the great Mr. Curtis Summerfield Evans.
Hello, everyone. My name is Curtis Evans. I'm out of Summerville, South Carolina. Most people don't know where that is. It's right outside of Charleston, South Carolina. So most people know where Charleston is. It's on the coast. It's a thriving city. We got Mercedes building cars here. Boeing builds planes here. Volvo builds cars here. It's just a big old city with a lot of stuff going on. So anyway, that's where we are. We're on the other side of the world. I know most of you are on the West Coast, and I know with Al's organization, you're all over the world. But with that, we'd like to spend some time with you this morning and kind of give you some things that can help you grow your business. And last week we showed a video from the back office. All this is in the back office, a video that really talked about a lot of things. And most of these are top money earners in the business. They've been in the business a number of years. And so, you can learn from people like that. There's certain things they did to get to where they are. And so you can just learn from them. Why go and make a mistake like whatever for the next 2-3 years and then find out, but you're fortunate here. You got someone to help you steer the car, keep the car on the road. And that's Mr. Thomas, as he goes and gives us more information about what to do, how to do, and when to do. So we are very, very fortunate. Today, we're also fortunate because the guest speaker won't only be me, it will be a co-founder of the company. Now, these four guys got together and they drew on a sheet of paper what they thought would work in the network marketing business. And they went to the top of one, maybe, I think all four of them went to the top of a multi-level marketing business. And once they got to the top of the business, guess what happened, y'all? They shut it down. Whoever the owner was, they took their money and they were rich, so they took their money, shut it down, and went home. And so they were kind of stung. So they sat around a desk or kitchen table that they had. They were introduced by another young lady, but they sat around this table. They tried to figure out what company they wanted to all join together, and they decided to make their own company. And they decided to do all the things that worked and all the things that didn't work. They weren't going to do that. One of the co-founders is a brother of a twin. Two of the co-founders are twins. It's Mike and Tony. Tony Kupas, as you know. Today, we hear a lot from Tony Kupas, but we don't hear as much from Mike Kupas. So today, Mike's going to give us some training, and it's going to be something that all of you want to know about. Is how to create momentum. How to create momentum. It's not going to be about how to get one IBO in. It's going to be how to create momentum. And if you've never seen or experienced momentum in multi-level marketing, it's a wonderful thing. I mean, it's hard to explain how. It's hard to explain it. I can't explain it. So if you were a regional director and you had 10 IBOs coming to your group and they all qualified that month, as you all know, that's roughly $2,000, $2,500. Okay, who can use $2,000, $2,500 extra? Okay, but what if you had 100 that came into your organization that month, and they all qualified? Okay, that's between $20,000 and $25,000 for the month. The good thing about multi-level marketing is they don't care who you are, how old you are, they don't care what color you are, how short you are, how tall you are. They just don't care. If your IBO number shows that this happened, this is what you're going to get paid. And so it's the fairest thing in town. Now, I don't know why people have a problem with it, because it's fair. Maybe that's why they have a problem with it. You can't cheat it. You can't, it's fair. It doesn't care if you're a woman or a man, it just doesn't care. And so that attracted me to the business. Actually, it attracted me to the business. It made sense that I could get paid for what I did or what I helped get started, okay? And what we want in momentum is not to only get paid for what we do. We always get paid for what we do, but we want to get paid for what other people do. Now, that sounds crazy if you were raised in a job, and if you were raised to go get a job, nothing wrong with that. But if you were raised to get a job, you get paid for what you do. All I want is to get my money, the money I worked for last week. I worked 40 hours. I worked 32 hours. I worked 55 hours. All I want is what I work for. You hear people talking like that. That's crazy talk. Okay? Because what you really want is what you work for and what you didn't work for. That's what you really want. And so that is one of the secrets to a lot of doing well in the country. It's hard to do well unless you're inside a system like that. Well, our company delivers that in spades. So what we're looking for is momentum. I said, what happens if you got 10 in? What happens if you got 100 in? What happens if you got 1,000 in that year? Okay. What if you had 1,000 IBOs all qualified that year? So the way you do that is to create momentum. So I want you to take your pencil and pen out, and put it to paper and take notes from someone that's been in the business since 1982. Okay. Now 1982 to 1992 was 10 years, right? 92 to 2002 was 20 years. 2002 to 2012 is 30 years. And 2012 to 2022 is 40 years. So we're talking about 43 years of experience. It's going to come on right now. So you'd be crazy not to pay really close attention, because what you're looking for is momentum. Now, we got to start with one IBO and help them get one and help them get two and help them three. But sooner or later, something's going to happen and you're going to run into another you and another you and another you. And then you start seeing momentum. So let's go into the details here. I want to tell the whole thing, give the whole thing away. So I'm going to share my screen.
How's everybody doing? You guys enjoying the weekend so far? All right, well, I have an opportunity to do some training today, so I'm going to take the co-founder hat off and put the IBO hat on. Is that okay? All right, now, this is one of my favorite subjects because I don't think anyone ever forgets when they first get started. Because, all of us have to, be introduced to an opportunity like this. We have to decide whether we want to take the chance on it. We're excited in the beginning, but at the same time, a lot of fear is creeping in. We're wondering if we can actually be successful. And these are emotions that create memories that you never forget. And I remember when I first got involved in this industry, there was a time where I was just paying attention to what was going on around me. And it was a time when I really didn't understand the business. I didn't understand how to do things. All I knew is there was an opportunity, people were doing well, and as I'm paying attention, I noticed there were certain teams that had a lot of momentum. There were some teams that didn't have any momentum. But if any one of you in this room have ever experienced momentum in this business, you never forget it, because imagine being in a place where you got a few people in, they talk to a few people, and then all of a sudden it just takes off. It's like a snowball, going down a hill or a brush fire. It just takes off, and as it starts to explode, everyone starts coming up to you and saying, "Wow, what are you doing?" I mean, you might, and then it goes to your head a little bit. Well, I don't know. I guess I'm just a great leader. Things are just happening. Things are exploding. I have seen so many people go through a momentum, and then all of a sudden, something happens. The momentum stops or falls apart, and they can never recreate it again. It's like they were a one-trick pony. One time they had momentum. And I remember in my early years, I just knew there was a skill set to certain people, because there were certain people that even if they lost momentum, they could go somewhere else and recreate it. And then after they went to this location, they went somewhere else and they created momentum again. It was almost like wherever they went, there was momentum. But for other people, they were just lucky because they were in the area that person was working, or they were working with that person, and their momentum wasn't created by what they did. They were just the right place at the right time, but they never broke down the system to understand where the momentum came from in the first place. Does that make sense to you guys? So this is one of my favorite subjects because I was obsessed with it. I wanted to be that person that was in control. I don't know if I'm a control freak, but I just wanted to be in control. I knew that, if I was a dishwasher at a restaurant, which I was at one point in my life, I knew that in order to get the job done, when a box of dishes came here, I knew how to spray it off, put it in a rack, and put it in the dishwasher. It's pretty easy. Everything I did, I was in control of. But when we're in direct sales, I remember that it was a strange feeling because a lot of us are earning money based on what other people do. And how many of you realize we don't control other people? So this was what was interesting to me, because I'm going, well, how come some people are so good at it and some people aren't? So I just dove into that topic. I wanted to understand it. And I broke it down. I was into the psychology of it. And I'm going to talk to you guys about this today, because I know some of you in this audience are just like me. You want to be in full control. You want to be able to go anywhere, any place, anytime, and have momentum. And you don't ever want to be dependent on someone else doing it for you. There are people in this audience that want to be in that same place that I wanted to be in. And you're the people I'm talking to. Now, not all of you are going to be ready to do this, but I at least want to give you the information so when you are, you understand it. And what I'm going to go through is more of a concept than it is getting into the very little details, because if you understand the concept, everything else will fall into place. But I remember there was three levels of momentum. There's creating momentum, there's maintaining momentum, and there's advancing momentum. Now, what's interesting is maintaining and advancing, I'm not going to talk to you about that today, okay? Because the real thing you need to know is how to create momentum. Because if you know how to create momentum, the maintaining and the advancing is easy. That's just duplication. But you've got to get really good at creating momentum. That means any day, any time, any place, anywhere, if you want to start momentum, that you are in full control of it. How many of you want to be in full control of momentum? Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about. So my subject is creating momentum. And let me define what creating momentum actually means. It's the art of creating new production, not old production. It's creating new production in your open line. So if you're a regional director, you want to grow your open line regional director business. If you're an RC, you want to grow your business in your open line. And what does open line mean? It means not under anyone else at the same level as you in your organization. How many of you can be an RD and you might have an RD on your 4th level? Okay, don't count the production that's under that RD. Count the production that's above and around that RD, because that is where we're going to really measure your ability to create momentum. Always focus on increasing your production in your open line. Now, if you want to be good at creating momentum, here's a couple things that you must learn how to do. Number one, you want to learn how to present the ACN opportunity to a brand new person. Now, what's interesting, and I remember this, when I first got into network marketing, I was intimidated to present because I didn't know if I would say the right things, or I didn't know if I'd be able to answer questions. I wanted people to join my team when I first got into network marketing, but I wasn't confident I could do all the presentations. But I was lucky, because the person that got my brother and I in the industry, he was doing all of our presentations for the first 30 days. And I remember exactly what he said to us. He goes, Mike, he goes, Tony, he goes, we're going to have plenty of time for you guys to learn how to do this. He goes, but here's what I want you to do in your first 30 days. He said, I'm going to do all of the presentations, which means I'll explain it to everybody, number one. He goes, number two, if anyone has any questions, you guys don't have to worry about that. He goes, I'm going to answer all the questions. Number three, if anyone wants to know what the next step is, he says, you don't have to worry about that. He goes, I will tell them what the next step is. And as he was talking, we're thinking, well, what do we got to do? He says, all you have to do is put people in front of me and I will take care of the rest. And when he said that, I remember sitting back going, wait a minute. So all we got to do is just put people in front of you and you're going to do the rest? And he instilled something in us at that very moment in time. He took all the fear away. We had no fear because we knew that he was going to do everything. And for the first 30 days, you know what Tony and I did? We loaded him up with so many people. He was working on the hour, every hour. We were doing PBRs back then in our apartment. I remember the very first one we had 30-something people in. And from there, we parlayed that into doing one-on-ones, three-way calls, conference calls. It was just all-out massive business. We had built so much momentum in our first 30 days because all my brother and I did was invite. Why did we invite? Because knowing that we didn't know how to present, knowing how to answer questions, we understood that we had somebody else out there that was going to do it for us. And that person seemed very confident. They told us what they were going to do. And we just believed them. And we just flooded that person with a bunch of people. And we ended up creating a tremendous amount of momentum. But here's a couple things I learned from his presentations. Number one, which I didn't know at the time, what I learned from his presentations is that every presentation he did was identical to the last, to the cliche, to the joke, and he always kept it simple, and he always kept it short. I'll never forget that. And I remember sitting there, And he used to tell me the rule was that when he was doing a presentation, he says, don't interrupt me. And I sat through 10 presentations. How many of you ever listened to a song before? You never took the time to learn the words, but all of a sudden it comes on and you start singing the words and you go, how did I know that next thing, you know? Because repetition is the mother of learning. And I sat there and when we listened to him do a presentation, we didn't know it, but he was training us. He knew that if we sat through his presentation every single day that we would learn it by accident. And that's exactly what happened. I used to sit there while he was doing his presentations and my knees were shaking, because I knew what he was going to say next, and I wanted to say it. I was getting excited. I wanted to interrupt him. And there was a couple times I did, and he just got up from the table and walked away, and I realized I was in a bad situation, right? So I never interrupted him, neither did my brother. But when he was doing the presentation, it was the same joke, same cliche, kept it short, kept it simple, and we were just jumping out of our skin. I couldn't wait for him to leave in 30 days. Why? Because we wanted to step up. We wanted to start doing it. It was an organic process, but he kept it simple. But here's what he also taught us. He said, listen, when it comes to presenting, he goes, don't think that you have to be great at presenting. Don't think you need any special public speaking skills. Don't think you need to know anything special. Okay, all you got to do is memorize your presentation. Keep it short, 15 minutes, memorize it. He goes, and you got to just never change it. Never deviate, never add to it. He goes, just master it. He goes, because if you do the same presentation every single time, he goes, everyone listening to you will duplicate you. That's how you're going to get more people on your team doing presentations. And it made sense because it happened to us. So here's what ended up happening. He says, look, Mike, goes, don't try to be fancy. He goes, think of your job is to explain. Because people say, how do I do a good presentation? Here's how you do a good presentation. Understand what your job is. Your job is to serve the person you're talking to. Your job is not to serve yourself. If you want to serve yourself, then you're going to try to think of really fancy things to say to make yourself look good. Because let's face it, people's favorite word is their name and their favorite sound is their own voice. People love to talk. And believe it or not, a lot of people kill their own momentum because they like to put on a show versus understanding the purpose of a presentation. The purpose of a presentation is to help somebody listening understand. Think about that. That's the job of a presenter, helping somebody understand. Now, do we have to make them educated on every aspect of the business? No, but we want them to understand what? The concept. If they can understand the concept, then they can make a decision whether they want to go to the next level. Is that clear for everybody? So that's serving someone else. So if you really sit back and say, okay, if my job is to explain, and I'm not selling, I'm not trying to convince, if I'm just here to explain, it really does make things simple. And what I used to do is in my mind, I would imagine whatever topic I was talking about when I was presenting, I was actually visualizing somebody leaning forward, really interested, saying, tell me about the company. And when I would hear that in my head, I'd say, let me tell you about the company. Because if somebody's excited and they're leaning forward towards you and they really want to know, then you're excited about telling them. So I would just visualize that in my head. Tell me about the company. And what I would do is I would just explain the company. Listen, ACN's a great company. We've been in business for over 30 years. We're solid. We're you know, and you just keep it real basic, but you're explaining it. And another thing he taught me was, and I learned this over time, was sometimes people find themselves talking so much that it's like they're running down a hill and they can't stop. I don't know if any of you have ever been in that position before. And you know, and all of a sudden you're almost having an out-of-body experience, and you realize you're not saying things correctly anymore, but you can't seem to get out of it. You're looking for an exit, an off-ramp, but you can't in your head, and you're just derailing yourself, right? One of the things I learned is that, look, if you want to explain the business and you don't want to get down that, you know, where you're selling it or pitching it or fire hosing somebody, he says, just use the phrase, let me explain, in front of each topic you're going to talk about. So if I'm going to talk about ACN, I say, let me explain to you why I think ACN is a great company. Next topic, right? Let me explain to you why I think these services are fantastic. Let me break it down for you. Let me explain how ACN markets themselves. Let me explain to you how you get paid when you get personal customers. Let me explain to you how you get paid by building a team. Let me explain to you how you can take advantage of this system. And if you put that phrase in front of everything you're about to talk about, you actually fall into a pattern of actually serving the person you're talking about. Let me tell you something. Presenting ACN is one of the easiest things you're ever going to do once you get over yourself, once you get over the fear. But I always tell people, if you want to create momentum, you have to be able to explain to ACN. If you're depending on someone else to do a presentation for you, then you'll never be in a position of power to create momentum. You have to be able to do it yourself. You have to be able to get on a Zoom. You have to be able to meet somebody one-on-one. You have to be able to explain ACN anywhere, any place, anytime, and explain the concept. Can you guys do that? All right. Next thing you need to learn. Number 2, you have to learn how to train someone to get started. Now, believe it or not, people think this is hard, but it's not. It's easy. How many of you could sit down today and draw on a piece of paper how to become an ETL in ACN? How many of you could do that? Okay, that's your training, guys. You sit down and say, step 1, we're going to get you started. You want to go ETL. Here's exactly how you go ETL. So what are you going to do? You're going to invite some people to look at the opportunity. That's your job. Our job is to present. The guest's job is to decide. Simple. You want to get a certain amount of points. You don't want to overwhelm people. You say, look, we want to try to accomplish this within the next 30 days. Why? Because I want to get you a fast start bonus, because I want to create your story. Part of the basic training is creating that new person's story. We want to get you some success, things that you could tell everybody else, your testimonial. And you only have one chance to get the fast start bonuses or customer bonuses. You have only one chance to do it within your first 30 days, and that's right now. So let's at least take advantage of the first 30 days. Let's knock this out, create a success story, because if you can do it, you watch how many people you know are going to want to do this as well. So let's create your story. It starts with step 1. All of you can break down how to become an ETL. Believe it or not, that's your basic training. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. Promote the system you guys are using it, and you guys will be really good at getting people started. Number 3. This is probably the most important, and I'm going to just take a little extra time in this one because I really want you to digest this. Okay, you want to understand sorting. Now, there's a difference between me telling you to go out and sort people versus you really, truly understanding sorting. What's interesting, it's the first thing taught, hardest thing to learn. And the reason why it's hard is because it fights human nature. Okay, when sorting, your only job is to separate the interested people from the uninterested people. Think about how simple that is. Nowhere in the ACN training will we ever tell you that you have to sell somebody, close somebody, convince somebody they got to do ACN. That's not your job. That's why this business was built for the masses, because all of us could figure out instantaneously whether somebody was interested or not interested. Okay? So don't argue with somebody. Don't debate someone. Don't try to convince someone. And here's the most important, don't try to change someone's mind. Why? Because successful IBOs understand that you cannot say the right thing to the wrong person, and you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. Okay? Timing, not talent. That's what will determine whether somebody will join this business. I'll give you an example. Let's say you approach someone tomorrow. It was random, or maybe it was a referral, or maybe you knew the person, and you wanted to pique their interest and invite them to a presentation. And maybe you did pique their interest, and maybe they did come to the presentation, but the day before that, they were just promoted at their job. They got a 20% increase in their salary. They were recognized in front of all of their peers. They were validated in their own business where they felt important. What's the likelihood of them looking for an opportunity right now? It's very, very low. Now, does it mean that you're a bad person? Does it mean you're bad at peaking? Does it mean you're bad at presenting? Does it mean the opportunity's terrible? Okay, the answer is none of the above. You just approach that person at the wrong time. That's what sorting is. Sorting is understanding that if you approach somebody at the wrong time, they're not going to be interested. Now imagine that same scenario where the day before you pique their interest, their job took the promotion, their boss took the promotion that they were supposed to get. They absorbed the increase in pay based on the work that they did. They weren't recognized in front of their peers. Instead, they were humiliated. And all of a sudden, they were feeling that they were totally taken advantage of, and they're at a point where they're completely disgusted with their career, and they want to do something else. And now you pique their interest, and they show up to a presentation. What do you think the likelihood is that they might actually take the first step to join the business? The likelihood of them joining will increase. They'll probably say, yes, you know what? You got me at the right time. I can't tell you right now how important, I was looking for something. And now, does that mean you're an excellent presenter? Does that mean that somehow, some way the products got better, the company got better? No, it was because you approach that person at the right time. And if you hit somebody at the right time, they're going to join. Now, why am I going into this is because sorting is the #1 reason why people fail in this business, because they think they understand, but they don't. And whenever somebody like their brother or their sister or their parent or a good friend says they're not interested, they end up getting in a debate. They end up arguing because somehow you feel insulted that somebody was saying no to you. You can't handle the rejection. It's not rejection, guys. It's timing. But let me tell you what happens if you don't understand what I'm telling you. This is crazy, right? How many of you realize that we all know people that know other people that we know, right? So if you make just one person feel bad, oh, you don't want to join the business? Well, you're a piece of garbage, okay? You're going to be a loser for the rest of your life, And all of a sudden, they're going to go behind your back and they're going to start saying, hey, did Mike call you about that thing that he's in? It has nothing to do with that thing, but it's how you made that person feel, right? Did he call you about that thing? No. He'll be calling. He'll be calling. You what? Yeah. And all of a sudden, you're walking down the street, you run into that person you just talked to, and you said, hey, how you doing? He goes, I'm not interested. See, you'll get a team of people working behind the scenes, and they're going to be working against you. And you know who created that? You did. Because you chose to make somebody feel bad because the timing wasn't right for them. So sorting means sort. That's what sorting means. If somebody's interested, great. It's an attitude you got to have. If somebody's not interested, hey, great. Thanks for at least looking. You're a good friend. Can you guys do that? And you might even find that some of the people that are not interested, if you approach them to become a customer, they will. Can you imagine actually making a little percentage of residual income on a service on every single person that says no to you? That's why when Tony talks about second source of customers, you're going to get so many customers from people that say no. It's going to be amazing if you treat people right. Sorting is the key to the business, guys. If you master and you truly understand sorting, you will create more momentum than everybody else. Because the reason why a lot of people don't create momentum is because they're stuck in the mud trying to force somebody to do something they didn't want to do in the first place. And guess what? Are some of us really good at sales? Yes. Some of us are so good that we could actually convince somebody to do the business when they didn't want to do it. And that's going to be the person that's going to punish you for the rest of your career. Because you have to convince them to show up to the training. You're going to have to convince them to go to an Elevate event. You're going to have to convince them to get qualified. You're going to have to convince them to go ETL. You have to convince them to go RC. Convince them to go RD. Convince them to show up. Convince. Why? Because they already told you they didn't want to do it in the beginning. So you will be punished for the rest of your career with that individual. And guess who's punishing you? You're punishing you.
So that's about 40 minutes long. We're going to do the next 20 minutes next week, okay? But this is just to talk about the sorting aspect and ability to get through people. How many people did your organization get through this week? You notice that when Mr. Thomas asks those questions every day, he's getting through hundreds of people every week. Hundreds of people. How would like to Mr. Danny Payne in Alberta? How would you like an organization that got through 100 people this week? Sort it. And after they sorted, 10 IBOs showed up. Or Mr. Rick Kubik, how would you like this month if your organization sorted through 1,000 people this month the right way, and after the 1,000 people, you had 100 IBOs that showed up, qualified. Okay, so this is coming from someone that's been in business since 1982. I'm not quite a little longer, just a tad bit longer. I know a little bit more about Mr. Thomas than y'all do, but a little bit longer than Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas, when he first started his multi-level marketing career, was in the beginning of a company, 1989, 1990, somewhere in there. And so this guy is just a couple of years. So we have Mr. Thomas at our disposal all the time to give us the same direction. How many people can your organization go through? And all the no's, just shake them off and go to the people that are interested. And so that's what Mr. Now, the good thing about this is I would love to take credit for it, but it's in your back office. If you go to your back office, you'll see there's mindset, there's customer gathering, there's all kinds of things back there. Those are tools that we can use to learn from the best of the best of the best of the best, okay? And sometimes I need to hear from this person, and another day I need to hear from that person. They got all kinds of people back there talking about how to build the business. But one of the things we want, and I can answer this question yes for everybody. Everyone wants momentum. If you never experienced it, trust me, you want momentum in your business. If you get momentum in your business, you get them to ETL, teach them how to do a presentation, teach them because they heard you so many times. and now they're ready to go, and not worry too much about what the outcome is going to be, because that has almost nothing to do with you, almost nothing. Anyway, with that said, I'm going to turn the floor back over to Mr. Thomas,